Hello, welcome back to the David Watson podcast. Today I spoke to a remarkable lady, phenomenal energy and just kind of a living embodiment of joy. Like seriously, has just kind of cracked the matrix code, if you like, for understanding that joy is just infectious, contagious, and helps you live a better life. And is also a chiropractor. And I had a great conversation with her, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Hello, welcome to the David Watson podcast. I feel very comfortable now that we've decided that we control the weather in the universe. I think we've established a good basis from which to start.
I absolutely agree with you. I think now that we've also come to the hypothesis that the cooler the weather, the nicer the people. So we're in great shape. I'm bringing my California sunshine to your rainy UK day.
We are. You are indeed. And just quickly, because you have a poster in the background, is the Adjusted Reality podcast. I'm sure that would be you. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, and just to my under my shoulder is the Adjusted Reality book, which is only but an arm's length away. So you're going to get to see it in real life glory with one sticker. It actually has two stickers now, being a #1 bestseller in several categories for Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. But thank you so much for seeing through me in the visual episode already.
It is, but we should say it's Adjusted Reality. Supercharge your whole being for optimal living.
And longevity.
I didn't get that bit. I didn't see that bit.
Yes, the longevity part is who wants to live longer if you're sicker, right? We want to
100%.
optimize, supercharge your whole being so that you are really looking at everyday lifestyle choices. And so you can live longer, healthier, not live longer sicker, because, those are the rainy days.
Yeah, I don't need to live another day sick. Yeah.
That's right.
That reminds me of that saying, actually, because they do say, don't they, that, when you're feeling healthy, you wish for all sorts of things. But when you feel ill, the only thing you wish for is good health.
This is true. And I love that you started it that way, because one of the things, as I was writing the book, I was looking at the way that we, in and of ourselves, are really compromised when we think of luxury. And Socrates had a famous saying that contentment is natural wealth and luxury is artificial poverty. And you cannot live life thinking that your health is just another thing to do. This is not a to-do list. This, when you wake up in the morning and you start making choices for yourself, and why I really wanted Adjusted Reality to come on the marketplace, was I wanted it to be to actually have enough information that it's your to-be list, that you put it at the top of your list for investing in you. And that was one of the, I think, one of the monumental moments that people, when they actually read it, it reaches out to them deeply and tells them that their own agency for investing.
It is. It's funny that I think humans I was going to say terrible internal investors. We'll invest huge sums of money and energy in external happiness, external items, but you say somebody take a walk every morning, it'll the longevity it'll provide you. Just cut back. Don't give up on alcohol or coffee, but start the morning with a glass of fresh water. Go for a long walk. Just walk for an hour. Anything like fresh air. And no, I'm not doing that. But people will drive a $200,000 car to a gym, which they pay £1,000 a month, $1,000 a month to be a member of, to use a machine to walk on, and then drink an energy drink. And it's just like, and I'm not lecturing, because but it's funny how we will invest so much. Like, I can guarantee 100% that a lot, maybe not all, but I'll be surprised if it's not. I will assume you're being polite if you say not all your clients who are repeat offenders, i.e. they keep coming back to you, ignore your original advice.
Oh, you're 100% accurate. I would totally nail that down. And here's why. Expectations go up incrementally as you know there's someone who is there for you. And a lot of us, and myself included, would like to take my health and give it to someone else. Can you just take care of me? I just
Oh,
want you to take care of me. And that really is a natural nurturing moment. A healthcare provider is a nurturer by nature. Ooh, that's really good, right? Nurture by nature. And
that's the
if
next
we
title
think
for the
about,
next book.
that's right, nurture by nature. If we think about that flawed system that we're in, is we want to give everything to someone else to do for us. So if your computer's broken, you bring in someone and they can, work with you on that. Your car needs maintenance, you give it to someone to fix. It's always the external person that's going to fix something for you. And that, I think, is where we start changing our reality, is that the best advocate in your life is, in fact, you. That is the best expert who can tell you where you are. And in this quote is really a call to action for people to trust their instincts and then take control. And I think that's the idea, that health is not something that is done to you, but it's rather a collaboration with you and your healthcare provider. It is a forged mission together, because we don't have all the answers as an individual when something starts to break. But we also have to depend on someone who is logical, that has the research and is balanced enough to say, here's where I think we need to focus our time, talent, and energy as a healthcare provider.
So how did you start all of this? Where, like, as a child, were you interested in the mechanics of the body? Were you interested in health?
Actually, I'm a people person, and that's where it started. So I really want to be a helper, a servant, someone who can say, let's figure out how to do something better. And really, I was, at the time, one piece of my life was being a cuddler in a neonatal ward. So the little teeny preemie babies that came out, they're like 1 pound. Some of them were 1.5 pounds. I mean, it was extraordinary. And these are little pockets of energy, these little teeny babies. And what we learned through, because I was a cellular molecular microbial biologist at the time, because I really wanted to.
You wouldn't say that after a few drinks, would you?
No, you should not do that. That's dangerous, actually. Something bad could happen when you do that. But what I recognized really was the transfer of energy in love. And that was unusual for someone who is deeply embedded in research and science, because this is the soft part of research that people don't really talk about, because we always want to be like this hardcore, here are the digits, here are the numbers, here are the stats, here's where we're going to go with it, this is what our conclusion is. But what you can't define in a conclusionary outcome is the love and transfer of watching a little teeny baby who is clearly in a place of failure to thrive, because they're just teeny, their systems are still beginning to build. And then you hold them. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, the babies that I held had better outcomes than the babies I did not hold.
Yeah, 100%.
And there was not enough of me. Yeah, there was not enough of me. Like, they were asking people, the nurses would do 12-hour shifts, and then they were asked, hey, we really need this baby to be held. No nurse says no. I mean, a nurse is going to go in the 13th hour and say, okay, let me hold the baby. And I watched so much giving and so much kindness that I just wanted to give back. Now, I did not expect ever in a million years to become a chiropractor, but it happened. And it was because of the circumstances that I went through that made me who I am today, and that I know that there is absolute hope for anybody who feels that they're no longer able to cope.
I just want to go back to something you said about holding and hugging and cuddling, because again, this thing about humans, that we do funny things. Every kind of animal expert, every biologist will discuss how primates, as long as the primate is hairy in a tropical continent, they will discuss how the mother knows and understands the importance of the baby being reassured by touch and by smell and by the warmth of the body. we won't apply that to humans because apparently we're only primates when it suits us.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right.
And I always find that bizarre because the early stages of development for any baby is, and it's hard for people to understand really, but the brain, the way the brain processes for a baby child as it's starting to grow, is just experiences. It's whatever experience is present in front of it, and it's not trying to do anything other than learn, and trying to explore an environment that it's in. Because for when you're a baby, everything is your immediate environment. There's nothing beyond sort of what you can touch or see. Whereas, our environment is, I'm in the UK, you're in California, and a baby can't experience that or explore that. And we really neglect how important it is to just hold people. Do you know what I mean? And yet doctors, paramedics do. The first thing they'll do when they're assessing somebody is tell them their name and let them know that I'm a paramedic. You're going to be okay.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's a fundamental moment of connection. It can be visually. I mean, we think of our senses, and when we hit all of them, our body is in balance. When we can sometimes visually, perhaps we could smell it, perhaps we could taste it. There's so many things that we do that really are part of the most essential thing that is known to man, and that is one of the most critical. It's the operating system that has never been compromised. And we look at the importance of what our operating system is, and it's our nervous system. We as humans have the most complicated and corrective operating system ever known on Earth, period. End of story. There is no other animal able to have the resilience and the capability, in the special word called neuroplasticity, that allows us to be so adaptable and functionally, because we think we're so smart and because we think we know it all, we start to lose the fundamentals of the nervous system. And that really is why we focus in Adjusted Reality on that nervous system, the body's master communication highway. And when that system is actually aligned and functioning optimally, every part of your life improves. Hands down, how you move, how you heal, even how you think and feel. And it's a tool that we need to understand better so that we as humans stop doing these hard research dumps and start looking at the softer side of what makes us truly remarkable individuals. And they do hardcore studies on oxytocin. When I hug you for 20 seconds or more, I can release more oxytocin from you. And that actually changes the way the nervous system functions. So people will be like, oh, that's way overrated, a hug.
No,
but you start thinking about that little teeny baby in the neonatal ward that thrives on human touch and energy, which we've not actually been able to yet fully appreciate and understand, and the world changes.
It's funny that you say about the oxytocin and a hug or a cuddle, because people will dismiss it, and films show this very well. There is never a condolence scene in a film that doesn't involve the other person being touched.
It's absolutely critical when you start thinking about, so there is a doctor in Florida who has won the Press Ganey Award 8 times. And your audience now in the UK is thinking, what's a Press Ganey Award?
I'm thinking exactly that.
Exactly. It's 100% patient satisfaction. So wrap your head around that. Just winning it once would be an amazing accomplishment. But the plot thickens, David.
He's a hugger.
And here's where it goes. No, it's better than that. So they're in the traumatic brain injury unit.
Yep.
Now, you win 100% patient satisfaction in the hardest unit you can be in, which is traumatic brain injury.
That's what I do.
8 times. 8 times. So we reached out to this chiropractor. She's in a hospital in the traumatic brain injury. She's a chiropractor. And I said, how is it possible? And not with glib, because she's not that person. She's very, very smart. She's lots of training. She trains neurologists and neurosurgeons and internists and residents. And she said, and she stopped and she said, Sherry, don't ever underestimate the power of touch to someone who is conscious and unconscious. And I had a shiver down my spine.
I actually understand that, because my job is head injury rehabilitation. That's my main job. And so everybody I've ever worked with has had a traumatic head injury, and I work with them normally in their homes, getting them back into community, society and stuff. And not intentionally, but I will always kind of shake their hand, give them a hug, put a hand on their shoulder, whenever I'm having, because many of the conversations are because they're confused and angry and things don't make sense like they used to. And quite often they remember what their life used to be like, and that made much more sense to them than the life they have today. Yes. And yeah, its touch is, like I said, if you go back to you look at any film that has some form of condolences in it where somebody's lost somebody, the other person always touches them, because film directors know that that's a human instinct.
Just to visually see it. And, you know, there's another piece to this which I don't think we fully appreciate or understand yet, which is the communication patterns. When, David, you touch someone, what's really happening around there, because there are a lot of research articles based on the biochemical analysis, the neurological impacts, but it is very difficult. I was with a neurosurgeon who operated on the brain, and I said, "Can you tell me what you think you don't know? What is the unknown?" And he said, "You know, Sherry, fundamentally, in our field, when we work on the brain, we have to take them to an unconscious state." Mm-hmm. And I'm listening intently because I think I'm going to get the world of wisdom, okay, in this moment. And he said, what we don't know is why the brain wakes up. Oh. Why do we go from unconscious to conscious? Why? And why do some people do it? Because, you know, when you're in an operating room, it's a hope and a prayer. Because what you think you're doing is to provide best outcomes for the patient. But then you get in, and he even told me, I've had several patients where I got in and we opened up the brain and it was completely different than we thought we were going to do it. And there's a moment where that doctor is kind of like an air gap. Stop everything, rethink. Nothing's going to penetrate what we're going to do because we have to rethink the structure and function of what we're about to do. And he said, there's that 7 seconds that I have to decide with a team of 11 in the room. So we're talking big dollars. So there's the financial aspect of it. And then there's the patient's health. And that neurosurgeon in that moment has to reflect on proceed or restructure and come back. And he said the one thing that makes me always fully aware is I'm only a part of the solution.
Yeah.
And that's the humbleness. And when people go brain dead, they're dead. Like they're literally dead. And you can keep a machine running the heart, but once the brain decides it's no longer going to participate, we call them. That's the day that, you know, we give them their heavenly vows. But it stops us for a moment to reflect that each and every one of us have this profound ability to accept energy and to give energy, and that there's things we still don't understand. When he said that, I sat there and thought, wow, that is such a humble and beautiful statement that you recognize. And he said, I wasn't always like this. It took me 45 years to get to a point where I can humbly say, it's an energy we yet to be known. It's an energy yet to be defined. And I sat with a quantum physics engineer last weekend, and it's epic how portals work and string theory. And yet here we are today. So many of us will completely poo-poo that hug or that touch, that handshake that you give. And yet it's internally invested in us to touch someone when we meet them.
I was recently just reading on about when people get ghosted, and what it came down to is the reason it can have such a huge impact on people is because when somebody just disappears without notice, they said it's nothing to do with the brain. They said the nervous system, which is whole thing is designed to protect you, cannot close the loop. So it has to anticipate, well, this is going to be dangerous because you're hurting. You've been hurt really bad, but you don't know why. And the nervous system doesn't care how the brain tries to rationalize it, because the person just disappeared and you mechanically in your mind are trying to logic, well, maybe I did this, maybe I did that, or, time heals everything. The nervous system doesn't listen to that. So it can be continually triggered by smells, a song, a place, or an event, because it feels. It doesn't think, it feels, and its job is to protect you. And so when people kind of like, I don't understand, I got ghosted, and then I seen this person, it was 5 years later, and I had this, like, my stomach knotted up, and it was really traumatic, I don't know what happened. And it's just like, because your nervous system is responding, and it's like, oh, hang on, this could be dangerous. And the only reason it's dangerous is because the loop was never shut.
Beautifully said, David. The ghosting, if you've ghosted someone, take responsibility.
Yeah.
Because you are damaging neurons. And I'm going to come back to that damage of neurons. But if you've been ghosted, you need to have a reflection of how you're going to close the loop. And think about who you are in the world in order to ghost someone. That is a critical response pattern that makes you either under fear or under ego.
Yeah.
You're too good or you fear that person. In either way, to close a loop for someone is critical because it does get them to move to a different place, and it's a perspective issue. Now, let's go to something else when we don't close loops, is so many people think like a hug is so esoteric. It's just, a thing. Think about your sleep. Many of us, I've heard too much about sleep. It's just nonsense. It's just blah, blah, blah. Stop for a second, because like the hug, when you have neural patterns, and neuroplasticity brings in, that's the ability for your brain to actually become resilient and change. There's a cleanup crew that comes in at night. If you're not getting sleep, you're only getting half the cleanup crew, because nerves break and they reform and they rewire. And if you don't get that moment of reflection and you're ghosting someone and that person on the other end is trying to work through, I'm really hurt. Like I physically and mentally feel the pain. Number one, as a ghoster, well, think about the world has a yin and a yang, like my sunshine to your rainy days.
Absolutely.
And if you think your ego is playing a role of I'm too good for that person, reflect on how your future is going to come out, because it's going to hit you. It's going to hit you. The second part of that is if you're not getting sleep and you've been ghosted, trust me, my friend, you're worth it, and you need to figure out how to rewire it. But start with a good night's sleep, because anything that is emotional gets more raw when you don't take that moment to sleep. And if you're lucky enough to provide yourself with a gift of loving yourself, which is a gift, you have to give it to yourself. Look in the mirror and then ask yourself, what can I do for myself today? An adjusted reality moment, rather than just someone else. Because as you begin to spark your neuroanatomy and become the person that you want to be, you'll know right away you would never go someone. And you'll know right away that when you're emotionally raw, and I watched my mom do this, which was really beautiful. She would say to herself, she said, I have had a difficult day. And she was dealing with 5 kids. She would take a 20-minute nap. And she became a different person when she woke up. And I always thought about that because I saw the stress, the strain. She was dealing with a mother who was completely quadriplegic at the end, and a father who was her dad, who was trying to keep hold of all of the other 5 kids he was trying to care for, and then us 5 kids. And yet she handled it with such grace. And I saw the moments where she would take a nap during the day and she would get up and she'd be ready to fire for the rest of the day. So that's a gift. And I think she did it naturally, because she realized something really important. I have to give to myself first before I can give to everybody else.
Sleep is massively underrated. And I think one of the reasons it's not appreciated is because unless you have problems sleeping, I have friends that just on average sleep 9 hours a day. And I just, yeah. And
wow.
yeah. Because I average, if I'm lucky, 6.
I'm with you.
Yeah. And I've always been I was like that as a teenager. My friends would, like teenagers would just sleep in till midday. I'm waking up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I can't, I just how I am. And yeah, I once I've had about 5, 6 hours sleep, I'm awake and there's nothing I can do about it. And the only time I ever have a really long sleep is if I'm unwell. And then I'll kind of wake up thinking, yeah, it's totally worth it.
That's a really important point, David, is your body is wired and we're all wired differently. And when you need the greatest help, your body will shut you down. And that's why we do our best healing. Because in the book Adjusted Reality, I talk about the internal pharmacy. And it's really a critical component because the body makes so many of the chemicals that you can buy in the pharmacy. Yep. So why would you allow your shelves to not be restocked at night? Because it's the fastest way to restock your body, to get the melatonin, to get the serotonin, to get the oxytocin, all the things that we need to produce a beautiful day. And when you're sick, your body's screaming at you. What's it want to do? The first thing it makes you do is literally lay down. It doesn't go, hey, let's go for exercise. No, intuitively, you already know the best option is to allow that pharmacy to restock the shelves.
I'm going to paraphrase a statement. Do you know Jimmy Carr, the English comedian? He's been doing a tour of America. Somebody asked him the other day, something about what you do. Could AI replace him as a comedian? I think was the question. And he says no. Or he said, it depends what you think my job is. He said, if you think my job is to tell jokes, then yes. But he said, my job is to provide joy. He said, and I'm actually a drug dealer. He said, but I'm very clever. He said, because what I do, he said, as a drug dealer, he says, is you already have all of the drugs, but you buy tickets off me to release them because you have dopamine, serotonin. And he just listens, he says, and I release them for you and you pay me for it.
That's great. That's really awesome. He nailed it in a nutshell. And the important part to remember about artificial intelligence is we have a responsibility to keep it performing for humanity. And if we lose that option, it becomes detrimental to who we are today and where our future will go tomorrow. And so as a comedian, he's able to respond to the audience. He can see if he's putting them to sleep or if he's overdosing them, right? Yeah. And that AI may be able to do in the future, but it really is a critical component for us to recognize that we are humans and we have the ability to create. What we create is our choice.
Something that AI can't do, which the listeners won't be aware of, but you and I had a bit of a joke before we started recording, and you said something that was sort of just completely pertinent to this conversation. Is you said, because of the jokes we had about the weather, yin yang and all of that, you went, I can tell already from the energy this is going to be a great conversation. AI can't do that.
100% no. That connection, if lost on someone, can be regained by grabbing a cat in your arms and watching it purr as you touch it. AI can't do that.
Exactly.
And we reflect on these moments because the more we understand, the better we can create. And Abraham Lincoln, which is one of our famous presidents in the United States for our UK people, he said the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Yes.
Our job is to create. And if we choose to demoralize, dehumanize our future, that's our choice. And AI should be right in the gap so that we always control artificial intelligence, and we control it in a way which builds our creativity, our imagination, and we value human life over a robot. And that a robot, as they say in the Hague Principles, is, the number one thing is the robot compromises itself for a human, and a robot can never kill. That's what the reality should be. And a robot should always, if malfunctioning, kill itself. You would never do that to a human. So recognize where a robot should sit, which we should expect that if a robot starts to malfunction, it should then turn itself off. A human that malfunctions needs another human to refunction.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. And if we can respect that operating system, it's brilliant. And it will never be, from what we know on Earth right now as humans, and I know there's lots of things going on right now in the unidentified alien world that people start talking about. And I hear it. I hear really smart people talking about things that I'm afraid of. But the actual outcome is respect who we are as a species and how we want to adapt.
I can answer the alien ones fairly quickly. The AI one is, I can do the AI one quickly. With regards to aliens, there's only 3 things that possibly have happened. We've never been discovered yet. So that's because whoever's out there is the same technology as us. And the other 2 is they are either tyrannical, genocidal maniacs, in which case we haven't been discovered yet, or we have been discovered and they are protecting us.
Yeah.
So and AI, if we ever truly get an AI and it is unleashed, it will kill everybody. Because anybody with an ounce of sense would see, do you know what I mean? If you're an AI machine, i.e. proper artificial intelligence, there is no option where you would see humans as being compatible with your future.
True.
Not because we're good or evil, we're just a different species that can compete with you.
Yeah. And that, I think, is the fundamental groundwork that we, as scientists in the highest level of artificial intelligence and large language learning models, and we start to continue to build and create generational AI, is what does that look like? How does it feel? You know, what is a digital twin? And how do I know it's a digital twin? Like if I'm going to the grocery store and I have a humanoid who looks like me, acts like me, and talks like me, we have a responsibility to ensure that the world understands you're dealing with my digital twin. And how we react in the world when we put ourselves on social media as an artificial intelligence perspective. So I think fundamentally when we get down to not only how we as a society begin to develop the most complex systems, we also have to come back to the simple things, the things that really do make us human.
Yeah.
And that comfort we get in community nurturing from other humans, because it can't nurture the way a human could nurture. It doesn't have the certain energetics that we can't even identify, like the brain surgeon I told you, he can't identify it. You can't identify. And I actually went to the point where I was talking to one of the AI, just a really brilliant man building some artificial intelligence technology for the cerebral cortex. And I asked him, I said, so what are you learning? He goes, the networks are real. He goes, but I come back to nature because nature really nurtures. And as we were talking about, I said, I go on walks in my community and I live out in the mountains. And I'll tell you one thing that I've noted is that if a pine tree grows intertwined with an oak tree, it never falls down.
Yep, that's correct.
And there's been horrific storms in my mountains. Horrific, like really large oak trees have cracked and just fallen to the ground. What's crazy is I will see that 10% of plants that intertwine together, the pine and the oak growing together, and they're never touched by the storms. And it's such an amazing part of what we do as humans, is that nurturing, networking, symbiotic relationship. When we lift people up, not ghost them, we become a better society.
No, we do. Christians had a cliche saying for it: you reap what you sow.
Yes.
Karma, what goes around comes around. It's this. Did you? I mean, we've been telling these things for centuries, ever since we've had language. Is that, if you nurture, nature will take care of you. But just when you were handling, sort of bringing nurture to those young babies, one of the things you've mentioned the word a few times, energy. Would you feel that is?
I can identify it through sense. So when I was holding those little teeny babies, it was a feeling of contentment, a feeling of true balance. It was the ability to have a balanced perspective. I wasn't too far in the future, that anxiety level that can come, because I was just present. And so many times in my life, I wish I could have that same feeling back, because I get so far ahead of myself. I'm always thinking about 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, what's going to happen in 6 months, in 5 years. But there was something very special about that moment. Is you are right, balanced. And I would wrap the word around, like your comedian said, joy. I would call it full contentment. And it's a natural wealth that you can come by, and that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, with no strings attached and no preconceived expectations. That baby is not asking anything from you. And that's such a beautiful thing. How many relationships can we get in where we find contentment? They're not asking something from you. They're just happy to be with you. And that reflection is such a vital part of who we are as whole being, in that oftentimes our healthcare system perhaps lacks a little bit on looking at us as a whole being in that contentment world, is being able to say, what is wrong with you? Rather than, maybe we should shift our mindset to, what is right in your world that I can help you with to be better?
I used to do a lot of coaching. Don't so much now. And I've asked this on the podcast before. And one of the things that I used to do is I'd ask people, there's 2 questions that you can ask people. And it's not going to trip you up, because I'm already kind of suggesting that it can trip you up. But one of them is, tell me 5 things you do well. And what are 5 things that you do well?
And I think that just stimulating the right questions are so critical.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it's a critical thing. But if I said to you, what are 5 things you're not good at? Wrap that.
5 things you're not good at.
So I can answer the questions, because I like you, I'm like introspective. Like, how do I get better? How do I be better, do better, have better? And I run back to the great people in the world. Like Albert Einstein was fairly humble. Ask the questions. It's really the questions, not the answers. And we talked about the proverbial Christian life, and it's ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find, and then knock and the door opens unto you. Well, what are you doing? It's everything you do every day, only you have introspection. And if you're coaching someone, like you said, what are the 5 things you're good at? Your brain loves questions. It's like the best operating system. It's like AI on crack. It is. I got it.
But what I discovered is that most people, because they're coming to find somebody for life coaching or whatever, and they think there's something wrong with their life. So they have this repetitive cycle going on in this loop in their mind, that something's wrong with them. I could be better. So when you say to them, well, what are 5 things you're good at? They just pause. And another interesting question I used to like asking people is, if you ask somebody, how do you know if you're, if you're listening to your body, how do you know if you're stressed? And they'll give me 10 ailments, no problem at all. 10 problems. I ask them, how do you know when your body's happy? People don't know what to say. And it's just like, right, maybe think about it. The next time you're laughing, next time you're smiling, you're having a really good time, have a listen to what your body feels like. And because if you can tune into that, when you lose that frequency, you know something's going wrong. So maybe you'll then learn to adjust your thinking. I'm terrible at practicing that, by the way, but I'm good at telling people about it.
Well, the best coach in your life is you. I really truly believe that. So I think you're coaching yourself right now, and I think it's brilliant. It reminds me of someone who said to me once, "Why are you always smiling? Like that's problematic for me." I started to giggle.
I find your happiness offensive.
I do. I said, what is it? What is it about it that he's like, because it doesn't seem like you're taking anything seriously. I said, because I smile. And he said, yeah. And he goes, there's tough problems in here. Like, this is a very special story. And I'm going to tell you because there's people hurting out there. I was in my younger brother's intensive care unit. He's a young man, and unfortunately, he had a heart attack. And he was now on a life support machine. And I brought in my cousins with us. And we were talking about my brother like he was in the conversation. And we were laughing and joking and telling stories, because I know something very specific after talking to neurosurgeons is that the body responds to noise. And that means, in my mind, that they could probably hear you and hear what you're saying. And so I took my cousins, and I love my sisters and my cousins dearly. We were very close, and we could tell stories that would make us laugh and giggle. I got a knock on the ICU door, and they pulled me outside, and it was the chief medical officer. And he said, "Can I speak to you for a moment?" And I said, "Sure." And he goes, "I'm not sure if you told your cousins that your brother may not make it." And I looked at him and I said, I don't understand. What's the question? I said, "They all know he's on life support." And he goes, "Well, you guys are all laughing, and we're not sure that your expectations are set accordingly." And I stepped back and I said, "Well, I appreciate that you came out and you wanted everybody in the room to be reflective on death. But I also appreciate that it's not our choice. It's not our choice on my brother's life or death. But our choice in the room is to remain happy and to share stories and to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And I would rather be sitting there laughing and sharing stories about my brother than crying and sobbing and pitying myself for the situation that I'm in." And he looked at me, I swear to you, he's like, "Whoa." He goes, "I've never had that reflection." And he walked away. And that, I think, is critical moments of reflection, because at the end of the day, how you feel is how you think, and how you think are the actions you portray.
That's spot on. It is that could almost be on the tablets of the 10 Commandments. Do you know what I mean? It's because people really do underestimate. I mean, actually, Henry Ford said it, didn't he? Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're probably right.
You're right. You're always right.
Yeah. So,
and that in of itself makes you smile. If you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm right today, David. Yeah. The world is a beautiful place. And you and I get to share it. And the best part is when you become aware of it. Yes. And you do share the love and you do smile, because it feels good. I feel good when I smile. If I'm grumping it, then I'm humping it. So it just sucks. Like, why am I doing this? If you're doing something you hate, why are you doing it? And it just becomes that reflective. And if it's really serious, like you said, well, you don't take anything seriously. I go, well, I guess question for you is, what is serious? Because at the end of the day, when someone is in pain, do they want you to join them in pain and just hold that space for them? That's your responsibility to choose. And my choice right now is no one's dying in this room, and everybody is trying to create. So why aren't we having fun with it?
As you were saying that, I'm thinking to myself about the British sense of humour, because we're quite morbid and quite dark. And
it's quite wonderful.
Well, I'm going to say something, and people have to bear in mind this. He's a close friend, but a friend of mine.
Okay.
He's got terminal cancer, and it was kind of diagnosed a couple of years ago. And so we kind of all got together and went down to see him, and there's probably about 20 of us. And he was just like, "Yeah, I've got like 3 months to live." So we were all literally, just because he was there, so like, "Well, I'm not free that weekend for your funeral. You know that, don't you?"
See?
Do you know what I mean? And do you know what I mean? And even now, because he's like, you know, bless him, because he's still alive. He's been like 2 years. You know, he's still, he seems to be fitter, better than ever. And like occasionally, like, you know, you're supposed to be dead, don't you? Do you know what I mean? I can't keep this open forever. Do you know what I mean? And
I absolutely love your best friend. I really do. I think he has the way of looking at life, and we do understand that grief is a real thing and we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But he looks at grief and he doesn't want people around him to feel that grief. He wants them to feel the lightness, the laughter, the joy, the even the British
there's a Britishness about
comedic
it.
side.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
We kind of like, we want to know where the line is immediately. Do you know what I mean? There is this thing in British comedy that if we're not insulting you, we probably don't like you. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, how do you know he's that your friend? Because he's really rude to you all the time. I think he's quite fond of you.
You want to understand where they're coming from. And I had an older brother who had passed at 37. So I've been around a lot of unfortunate early loss, and I think it's made me hold the gap for people. Is really be in your space and be able to say, I'm here. I'm not going to unwaver. I'm in support of you. I'm in comfort of you, but I will not let you stay in a state that continues to steal from you. And grief, if not checked, can steal from you.
Yes.
And you have to recognize when that stealth fighter comes in, because there is going to be a need for warriors like you, which is what's so beautiful, is you have those people that surround you, and that goes back to the energy, the networking, that will fight those stealth fighters and say, you know what, this is not your place. You need to leave. And that's where I think we can grow our communities in the nurturing response.
Because, again, going back to this, do you know, actually, I'm going to ask you a different question. How did you become a chiropractor? Because we're supposed to be talking about your book and being a chiropractor, and we've gone off on a massive tangent. And
au contraire, I think we're exactly where the book is. That's the beautiful part is, David,
you're welcome. That's my professionalism as a podcaster.
I love it. You understand that the true wealth of a book is the ability to make it everyday living.
Yes.
And someone that can walk in and say, here's my book, I'm going to share with you who I am vulnerably. I was in a significant car accident, so I wanted to be in pediatric oncology. Wouldn't I have made just a phenomenal pediatric oncologist? Said no one. But the outcome was, because of that car accident, I was losing hope. Yep. And I had gone to probably 7 or 8 different experts who never really shared what was wrong with me. I had severe headaches. And I was at the time very athletic, and I'm not a person who wants to complain about something. I just want to take care of it. Let's just get on with it. And so I was becoming increasingly frustrated with the words that would come out of a healthcare provider's mouth. So, and I was given products that made me actually, now I look back and smile and say, I thought they were actually to make me better, but they were actually there to take away the symptomology. They wasn't at the root cause of the problem. So that was number one on my list, is what's the root cause? And then the second part was, as I was lying in the hospital gurney being whisked down to the CT to see if I fractured my spine, and I was thinking to myself in my jovial way is, God, I hope they don't cut my new cowboy boots off. So, I'm even laughing at myself because they're brand new, and I'm like, that's important.
It is.
So I laugh now because I'm in a lab and I'm spending hours and hours in the lab looking at a microscope. I can't concentrate because the headache is so bad. The more I forward flex my head, the worse the headache would get. And one day, one of my colleagues came up and said, I see that you're not your jovial self, and I really want to pass this card on to you because it doesn't look like you're getting better. And that was the moment of nurturing, that networking opportunity to say, I want to help you. And I took the card because I really enjoyed his company, and I said, thank you, I will try it. It's my last hope. I'm like at that point where if you can't have hope, you can't cope. And a friend like that can grab your hand and say, we're going to keep with hope because you have to be able to cope every day. And I took that moment and I went to the chiropractor, and I'm going to be honest with your audience. I'm not going to candy coat this, but I was 100% skeptical. I was like, oh boy, if this was going to work, why didn't I get it first choice? Because it's drug free and everything else they were giving me was drugs, more drugs, and more drugs. And even when I went to the physical therapist, and bless their soul, I couldn't do the exercises without it worsening my symptoms. So when I went to the chiropractor, my arms were folded on my chest, and I just thought, oh, this is full on quackery. I don't get it. And he was the first one that took me into the dark room, no pun intended. He actually took me in and showed me my x-rays and said, this is where my focus is. It's about the nervous system, but the greatest armor the nervous system has is a bony structure. That's how important the nervous system is. It has its own helmet. And there, I started to laugh. I'm like, oh, you're treating me like I'm in grade 6, and I'm on the breach of research in cellular molecular microbiology, but I'm going to go with your helmet story and try to figure out where we're going with this. So here we are. He determines that I have a misaligned joint fixation, is what he called it, and that it was at the atlas, the first bone in your body that holds up your brain. And I remember thinking when I first learned neuroanatomy, why would you call it atlas? Like that in and of itself is a strange thing to say, but we'll go with it. And so he said, I'm going to adjust your joint. And I said, okay. And that will allow the nervous system to begin to repair itself. I'm not healing you. Your body's doing it. That was the first time I've ever heard any physician ever say that. Ever. I'm like, oh, my body's going to heal itself. Excellent. with a full-on negative input. Like I'm negatively ready to take on whatever he's going to do because I don't get it. I don't understand it. And whatever you're going to do, I don't believe it's going to work. So if you're out there listening to me right now, I was full-on ready for this not to work. And so I'm wiring my brain for failure. Think about that. That's epic in and of itself. So I get the first adjustment, and he says, we're going to have you come back the next day, and we're going to reassess because there's more going on than just this, but this is the primary part. I said, okay. And I make the appointment. I walk downstairs into the parkade. I get in my car, and I'm like, holy cow, this is such a fluke. It's such a fluke. My headache's gone. I've had headaches for 6 months every day. And all I could think of is what a fluke. When I go to bed tonight, I'm going to wake up and that is going to be a fluke. And I'm going to come in and then we're going to do the same thing over and over again, just like I'm taking these pills every day. So I went in with no headache. They said, how are we doing today? Because now we need to get to the low back. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? What? And he said, well, the headaches should take care of themselves. Do you have a headache today? And I'm like, I do not. So I'm waiting for it to come back. And he goes, well, there's a positive attitude for you. And I said, why are you working on my low back? Because here's the thing that I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him my low back hurt. And what was really weird is that I didn't want to tell him because I wanted him to only focus on my headache. So I sat there in awe. And I said, how do you know my low back is a problem? And he goes, because I saw your x-rays. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. He goes, do you have symptoms in your low back? And I said, almost embarrassed. I said, I do, but I didn't want to tell you. And he goes, why is that? And I said, because I don't want to complain. I'm not a complainer. I just wanted you to take care of my headache. And he goes, first, you're not complaining. You're here for healthcare. And second, I understand because biomechanics are the key to the nervous system acting in alignment with what you feel and what you do. And I walked out of there and I said, I'm going to change my entire life. I'm going to change. That was my last hope. Literally, I'm stuck on drugs. I'm 19 years old and I'm stuck on drugs for healing.
For some 19-year-olds, that's a dream, being stuck on drugs.
That's true. I mean, that's kind of the output. And the rest of my life was spoken for. I told my immunology professor, and he ripped up my application when I asked him to sign my letter of referral, my letter of reference. And he said, I will absolutely not do that for you. And I said, sir, I'm one of your best in your class. Why would you not write a letter of reference? He goes, because I don't want you throwing your life away to do something that's just full quackery. And I said, sir, I think that's my choice, and I'd really like you to showcase that I am one of your best academic students. And he walked away from me. And so 25 years later, when I've created a brilliant office and I'm treating people and I'm doing things that really are changing the world, I wanted to go back to him and tell him, look, I didn't waste my life. Unfortunately, he died of a heart attack. So I never got to tell him the story, but becoming a chiropractor was a mission fulfilled. And I have never, ever had a day where I said, wow, I wish I was an orthopedist. I wish I was a neurosurgeon. I wish I was a researcher or a pediatric oncologist. I was called to this duty.
I like that. Just quickly, one of the things that I've found people sometimes find helpful, if you want to understand the body, the skeleton, but something that you were saying earlier about how adaptive the body is do you have a game in the United States called Jenga? In the UK, it's a kind of public. So you know all the blocks and bricks and you pull them out. That's the body in motion, because it will stand up and it will take an awful amount of punishment by knocking things out, pulling things out. And just like Jenga, you can, every time you pull something out, it will make an adjustment and it will still stand there as a tall column. And you can be amazed sometimes if you play it a lot, just how many things you can move before it collapses. And that's the human body. It will adjust. So just make micro adjustments 24/7, trying to keep you upright. And if you just kind of focus on it like that, you might not actually get to a point where it collapses.
It's beautifully said. And you know, the beauty of it is, many people will come to me and I'll be on an airplane and, you know, you get to a point where you almost know what people are going to say, because chiropractic was so misunderstood for so long. Yeah. So the questions are always very similar. But the one thing when I do hear someone talk about that they have a chiropractor is they love their chiropractor. And that love is a very special word, because you don't love your dentist and you don't love your tax accountant, but you love your chiropractor because it comes back to the human touch. So it's emotional thinking and feeling. When you talk about the Jenga, if people reflect that they have responsibilities to that puzzle that they own, and that it's their responsibility to figure out how they work. How does my body work? Because my body is an individual fingerprint. Your fingerprint, David, is different than mine. And how we relate to and build bridges with other healthcare providers is critical, because it's personalized care that everybody should be aware of. You're not one size fits all. You're not that in the pharmaceutical world, and you're not that in a chiropractor's world. What's good for me is not going to necessarily be great for you, David. It's going to be a choice that we make. And each of us has a choice. How many Jenga blocks are we going to pull today? And how many would we be willing to put back in? See, Jenga is about takeaway. What if we played the world of Jenga in a different reality and we started putting blocks in? How cool would that be as a game?
It would be. Just quickly, because we're going to run out of time. Where can people find you?
We, our book, Adjusted Reality for the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, is found in Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, anywhere where you buy books. But if you want to come to our website, you can sign up for our newsletters and our podcasts. It's f4cp.org/adjusted reality. And you'll see everything there that will hopefully help each part of your life should you start to want to put your blocks back in instead of taking them out. And it's a moment of reflection where you can create the world that you want by the choices that you make today. And that's where I want empowerment to be, the place where we align with each other for and with each other for nurturing.
And lastly, my random question that I also like to ask. I want you to imagine that you have a time machine. The time machine is a car of your choice, any car you want. Where would you go? What would the car be? And what would be playing on the radio?
So I own the car that I would choose again, and it's a Volvo SUV. And I rationalize that because safety is number one for me. How to ensure that I'm not putting myself in harm's way. So I'm driving down the road in my Volvo. under safety. So if Volvo's listening, yes, you too can sponsor me.
Yeah.
The second part is, where would I go? I would go to the top of the mountain. I would drive my car to the top of the mountain, and I would probably head to the mountains in Canada, which I grew up in because I've never yet seen anything as spectacular, which is Lake Louise. I would probably take it to the top of Lake Louise, surround myself there. And what's playing on the radio, some will find this funny, but Mozart. I feel my happiest when I don't listen to words, when I fully listen to the frequency and sound of something so beautiful that comes together. So that, I think, would kind of be the random opportunity to get to a place of beauty, both mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Yeah, I love that, because I understand that. There's times when I will listen to music on a loop, and typically there's no voices, because I'm doing exactly that. I'm listening, I'm feeling the sounds. If that
Yes.
makes, Sherry, this has been phenomenal. I really have appreciated your time. Thank you very much.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
And that was Dr. Sherry McAlister and her book, Adjusted Reality: Supercharge Your Whole Being for Optimal Living and Health. And we never really spoke much about being a chiropractor as such. It was just, I love conversations and podcasts that go off in a tangent as much as I just love talking to people about what they're passionate about. And it was a great pleasure to be able to talk to somebody who's just so passionate about being happy and finding joy in things. And there's a wonderful lesson in that, a proper life lesson. And go and check her out. The links will be in the description. Check the book out. Check out the website. Check out her podcast. And as always, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for everybody that helps and supports. And wherever you're from, whatever you believe, please do take care and be blessed. Thank you.